Hi everyone, welcome to This Week in Space Science. I'm Michael Baltimore, your host here. I want to welcome you back, and this is Season 3 of This Week in Space Science with Sean Cruz. And so we're very happy to have our third season underway. And Sean, welcome to the show, and congratulations on starting Season 3.
Thank you, Mike. It's good to be here as always, and I'm looking forward to another season here on This Week in Space Science.
Well, you know, COEHP.TV is continuing to grow. We have our 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week, 365-day station running on COEHP.TV on the web, and also here on Channel 39 here on the campus. So we're real pleased to be here, and I just might announce a little bit at this outset of this first show that there's a big movement underway for Columbus State Television. And so we're real interested in that, and we're going to keep you up to date on that project too, because this show will be a vital part of that new entire university campus television network coming up.
And I think that's a great thing, Mike, and I just want to tip my hat to you. I know that you've had a hand in doing the proof of concept for that right here on this particular TV network, and I'm very happy to be part of that and looking forward to that brand new endeavor for a campus-wide TV station here at Columbus State University.
Well, thank you very much. And we, as always, appreciate your coming in, talking about what's going on in space, on the planet, out in outer space, and even beyond. So we know that there are a lot of things going on at the Coca-Cola Space Science Center. You guys have been very busy. You know, it won't probably be on this show, but one of the upcoming shows, we want to go back and take a look at the interviews that you did and with your crew that came in the studio. We filmed a very special event just after they had been to the very last shuttle of the space shuttle mission.
Right.
And what I think it was pretty amazing that they were as close as they were during that last space shuttle manned flight, last one on the space shuttle. And so I want to bring that in probably next week. Maybe we can show some clips of that and let you talk a little bit about that experience.
That'd be fantastic. And my team really did have a fantastic vantage point. They were right there at the press area, the VIP area,
right
at Kennedy Space Center, because that team was being interviewed by NASA TV for their digital learning network. In other words, their webcasting television station. So they actually did some interviews and were just right there firsthand. Now, actually, I was at that launch too, so I can give you some of my insights. I was actually across the Indian River and with my family, and we watched that last launch as well. So it's an amazing experience. It's certainly a transition time in the history of the American space program, and the future is it's an interesting future as well. So we can talk all about that next time.
Very special event. I'm glad you guys were down there. I want to show our audience more of that. We'll come back and show those clips maybe in the next show. And but all right. So today, I know you brought in a list of things that we always talk about here. Now, this first thing is about the sky falling.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what you mean by that, but sometimes you brought in some things I've been kind of curious about. But is the sky falling?
Well, we're still here in August.
Okay.
And as a lot of people know, in August we have one of the most famous meteor showers of the year, which is the Perseid meteor shower.
Right.
Happens around August the 12th each and every year, and a lot of people out there in the audience may have already seen a few of those Perseid meteor showers flying by. However, there's a lot of other things that in the space news right now that have to do with things that go bump in the night from outer space. In other words, big space rocks that we need to discuss. One of those things is this. The European Space Agency just made a very important announcement of a new mission that they have in the planning stages right now.
Right.
The mission at this point in this early development has been nicknamed, get ready for this is a good one, it's been nicknamed Don Quixote.
Okay.
Don Quixote. You know, what did Don Quixote do? Well, he went out and chased windmills with a lance and some crazy things like this. But the idea behind
I don't know what we're going after here, but we got to be careful.
I don't know either, but there's a picture of it right there. So there's the Don Quixote, and what Don Quixote is, it's really a spacecraft that's designed to go out and ram into an asteroid.
Okay.
And you might think, well, why would anybody want to fly a perfectly good spaceship into a space rock?
I kind of like the concept though. Here, if it's going to keep an asteroid from coming at.
See, that's the idea right there, and that's exactly the plan behind the development of this. It's kind of like that movie Armageddon. Did you see that movie with Bruce Willis?
Yeah. Bruce Willis, right? And the team, they went up, they got on the thing. They were going to blow up this asteroid. There was an asteroid. It was
a lot of science fiction going on. There was a lot of suspension of disbelief that was necessary to really enjoy Armageddon, although it was quite an entertaining movie. But the premise is there's this giant asteroid. It's the size of Texas. It's coming in. It's going to slam into the Earth. First of all, we know of no asteroids as big as Texas. First of all, that's the first thing.
All right, there you go.
Second thing is, do you remember how far they had to drill down into that?
Oh yeah,
800 feet.
Right.
Have you ever walked 800 feet into Texas? That doesn't get you very far.
No.
So, but anyway, that's the movie.
Okay, I got it. All right.
So the reality is,
that's making sense.
the reality is that the European Space Agency is actually planning a mission that if an asteroid that was on a collision course with the Earth were detected far enough out, far enough away from the Earth, they could fly the spaceship out and deflect it a little bit.
All right.
Because if it's far enough away from the Earth, you only have to deflect it a
just a little,
because that angle has a magnifying effect as it approaches the Earth. It's kind of like this. If you see a pedestrian crossing a crosswalk with your car and you're a long ways back, it doesn't take much braking power to get you to miss the pedestrian. But if you're right up close to the pedestrian and then you see the pedestrian in the crosswalk, chances are you're going to have to hit those brakes a little harder.
Right.
Well, the same is true with this asteroid. If we can catch it far enough away, it's not going to require a very substantial force to kind of move it off course and have it miss the Earth. But if we don't find it until it's reasonably close, then you'd really have to go to blowing the thing up or some kind of drastic measure to get it to miss the Earth. The idea behind the Don Quixote European Space Agency mission is to fly this probe out to an already known asteroid and just see if we can nudge it a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Just see if we can give it enough force to change its orbit.
Yeah, a little trial.
It's a trial. That's exactly what it is.
Right.
It's like a preparatory mission, a proof of concept to see if they can nudge an asteroid off its path. Now you'll like this. That Don Quixote mission is actually composed of two spacecraft that one breaks apart, goes in and hits the asteroid. The other orbits the asteroid to see what the effect is.
Okay.
The names of those two are Sancho and Hidalgo.
All right.
Which, if you know your Don Quixote, Sancho is his companion and Hidalgo is his horse. And there you go. So that's the whole Don Quixote theme there.
That is a great story. Now, when is this going to take place? Is this we projected this and got a date yet?
Well, and what they've done is they've just announced the planning stages, so it could fly as early as 2015.
Okay.
So this is a project in the works for over the next 4 years or so, where they're going to develop the spacecraft, try to fly it, and see if they can actually do that. Now, I'm kind of joking around about all this, but it's actually a very, very important thing.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about this off and on for a while now.
Yeah, the certainty of Earth being hit by an asteroid, it's 100%. The probability is 100%. We will be hit by an asteroid sometime in the future. We don't know when that will happen, and the problem is that the asteroid isn't really going to call up and tell us it's coming. Right. It's going to be one of these things where we find it, and depending on how far ahead of time we find it, we'll have a certain window of time to take action. So, so the fact that we're going through the process now of a rehearsal on this whole asteroid deflection business, it's a good thing.
I like it. I like it a lot. Now, in this other story, you're talking about some meteorites, and you're talking about the state of Ohio.
Yeah, the state of Ohio.
How does those two things kind of go together?
Well, here's what happened on August the 8th, and believe it or not, it was right around that same time as the Perseids, but this was not one of the Perseid meteors. Okay. But some big space rock came streaking in over Ontario, Canada. And as it did, it was large enough that it produced in the atmosphere what we call a fireball. A fireball is a very, very large shooting star or meteor streaking through the sky. It's large enough to kind of spin and tumble and look like it's on fire. That's why they call it a fireball. But those bigger objects tend to break up in the atmosphere and it rain down material. Now, a lot of times that material will burn up. However, meteorite experts, as they've gone back and looked at this video, they projected that this thing was probably big enough that some of that material made landfall. Okay. So they projected the point at where it would have come in, and it looks like Ohio.
All right.
And so the idea is they've alerted the residents in Ohio, hey, if you're out there walking around in the outside of your house and you happen to see a weird-looking little rock on the ground, it could be a fragment from this Ontario fireball that came in, burned in over the Great Lakes region, and then rained material down over a part of Ohio. So, they've notified the residents of Ohio that these meteorite fragments may be found, and they want people to go out and look for them. Now, obviously, the folks at NASA would love to get their hands on one of those. Right. So they're hoping that whoever finds a sample of this will actually turn at least one piece of it in to allow research to be done, so we can kind of investigate the properties of that
look at that
asteroid
that meteorite coming in.
Rock.
Yeah. Okay. So NASA's also saying something about this comet, Ellen.
Yeah. It's Ellen. I'm sorry, I'm stuttering. It's because this is confusing.
Say that 4 times fast. All right, that's good.
Elenin, Comet Elenin.
With that. Yes.
Comet Elenin was named after its Russian discoverer, so it's the last name of the person who discovered it.
But it looked like it was a trajectory toward us.
It did. So when it was first discovered, it was on a course that was at least with preliminary measurements, was close enough to the Earth that they began to have a little bit of concern of how close was it really going to come. It looks like now that after further observations, the comet Elenin will be nowhere near on a collision course, and so NASA kind of came out and announced that recently. The reason that's important is because when this comet was first discovered, the internet, as it will do, just filled up with the whole rumor mill thing of, hey, there's a comet on a collision course with Earth. It's going to hit right around the end of 2011. That could trigger the whole end of the world scenario that we've been reading about for 2012.
Right.
The one that the Mayans predicted so long ago.
It doesn't take much to send us all in panic.
The internet.
Okay, there we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, just be careful when you're out there reading things on the internet, because there's a lot of baloney out there. And
you heard it first on this show.
And baloney's not a good thing, especially when it comes from space. So the idea is this comet looks like it's now going to miss the Earth by at least 22 million miles. Okay. Just to give you some sense of scale, that's about 90 times the distance from the Earth to the Moon. 90 times that distance, and so close enough that it'll be a nice object, be able to be viewed from the ground about the middle of October of this year. And in fact, we at the Space Science Center will likely have our telescopes trained on that object as it makes that close pass, but nowhere near enough to fire up that scary rumor mill you're reading about on the internet. Okay. It's not going to strike the Earth.
Okay, so just relax on all of this. This comet is not going to come there. All right, now here's an interesting story. We talked about the end of the manned space flight, at least the space shuttle program,
yes,
and even for the foreseeable future, maybe 5-10 years out for the United States. So China's beginning to do something, and they may be looking at a space station themselves.
They are definitely looking at a space station themselves. And actually, before I leap into the heart and soul of that, let me just throw something out there. I've got to clear something up, because I keep getting this question.
Right.
And the question tells me at the heart that there's a lot of folks out there that simply don't understand what's going on with NASA right now.
Right.
The question is phrased something like this: what are you guys going to do now that NASA's closing down?
Right.
And see, at the heart of that, there's a misconception.
Exactly.
NASA, ladies and gentlemen, NASA's not closing. They're not hanging the close sign out in front of NASA right now. They're not pulling off the big meatball logos off the buildings and things. That's not what's happening. What in fact happened is the shuttle program came to an end. So the space shuttle program did come to an end. That was our only human spaceflight vehicle at the time. NASA's busy working with private contractors to provide the next vehicle that will be capable of carrying astronauts to space. In the meantime, NASA still has astronauts. They'll be thumbing a ride with the Russians up to the International Space Station. So the astronaut program's not closing down. NASA's certainly not closing down. NASA's involved in a lot of things. However, one of the things they're not involved with right now is constructing a space station. Now, we just got the International Space Station finished. That's why they went ahead and terminated the shuttle program.
Exactly.
But we won't be doing any construction or additions to that now, because we don't have a vehicle capable of doing that. However, the Chinese, as you just mentioned, have announced that not only are they pursuing building their own space station, they're actually likely to launch their first component into space this month. So it could launch by the end of the month. A space module as part of China's space station program. Now, really, this component that they're going to launch, it's not going to become a part of their permanent space station that they want to build in space. It's more of a testing module. What they're going to do is they're going to fly this thing into space. Okay. A big module. And that's going to be meant to mimic a portion of their future space station. Okay. Then they're going to fly a second spacecraft called the Shenzhou. The Shenzhou is similar to the ones that will actually carry piloted astronauts to space. But they're going to practice a robotic docking. Okay. So they're going to try to dock these two spacecraft together without astronauts at the control. That's actually something the American space program never did. Right. From the Gemini era, which was the step onto the moon, where human astronauts were first docking spacecraft in orbit, up until now with the shuttle coming to dock to the International Space Station, there's always been a pilot at the controls of that docking mechanism. If the Chinese are able to perfect this, they will be the first nation in history to perfect a computerized docking of two spacecraft. So that's actually a fairly large technological advancement. Exactly. And so, the question that comes up with this is, well, how does that relate to America's space program? Where does that leave us? Well, that could leave us no longer in the lead in terms of that kind of technological advancement in space.
I don't think we're going to like that very much.
That's not somewhere. That's not somewhere where I want our country to be in terms of what our space program's doing, but it's just a fact. And so it's going to be very interesting to watch over the next few months what the Chinese are doing in space will this mission be successful, and will it launch here very soon? Unlike
Right.
NASA, the Chinese space agency is not always very good about coming out and telling you just exactly when they're going to launch. So we anticipate that it could launch by the end of the month. Really don't know. China really hasn't given a firm date.
Very, very interesting. Now here's an interesting story that you brought in too. Now, this is Stephen Colbert. Some of us have watched his show for a long time, and he's a very funny guy. He's a great comedian and so forth, but he's a big fan of NASA and the space shuttle program and the astronauts there. He is like a kid with this.
He is.
And I understand that they did a special treat for him. Something special happened with him.
You know, something very neat has happened. The last crew of a space shuttle, which was the Atlantis mission, 4-person crew, they basically went to New York. They've been hanging out with all the New York folks out there.
Yeah.
They've been on major TV networks.
Well,
they've hung out with the mayor of New York.
Great, yeah.
But they also slid in to say hi to a comedian that a lot of people like, Stephen Colbert. I understand he's a personal friend of yours. You wake up with him every morning.
I
on the
TiVo this guy. Yeah.
Okay.
I have him with coffee in the morning. He's a great
Coffee and
warm-up to the
Colbert.
day, you know.
That's a combination.
Controversial, however. So there you go. It's a matter of taste, maybe a preference there.
Well, the idea is, though, that the Colbert is, in fact, a huge supporter of the space program. You might remember there was a contest held by NASA to name one of their space missions, or one of their components, actually, that was going on the space station. And they had so many fans from the Colbert Show who wrote in that was actually the leading name for this new module was Colbert. They decided they really couldn't name it that. So they gave him kind of a consolation prize, and they named an onboard treadmill.
Right.
So that the astronauts could exercise on the International Space Station.
That.
They called that the Colbert. So anyway, so there's this kind of history between NASA, the shuttle astronauts, and Colbert in this kind of funny way. So the astronauts go on the Colbert Show,
right,
and they want to present Stephen Colbert with a souvenir of the shuttle program for being such a supporter of the space program.
Yeah, that's great.
And they decided to present him a part from the actual launch gantry.
Okay.
And the part happened to be a nut.
A nut.
They presented him with a nut.
Okay, you're going to have to explain that just a little more for me and for our viewers out there.
I don't know if I really have much more of an explanation.
They dropped off a nut.
It's pretty much a nut.
Or something.
Yeah, that's what it is. So you can imagine there's a portion that's.
I imagine it's a more big.
Right.
It's bigger than what we're talking
Before the shuttle's going to launch, the gantry actually kind of attaches to the shuttle, and it attaches by these very large nuts that they screw down. And apparently they screwed one off and gave it to Colbert. So he gave him a souvenir nut from the last flight of the space shuttle.
I just think that's pretty appropriate for what we're doing and what they're doing there.
I
Oh,
think
look, we got a picture of these guys.
There they are. They're there, and that's actually Colbert in the helmet.
He's getting the helmet saluting.
He's
there
giving
with
them the
American
appropriate
flag
salute
and so forth. All right, there you go. Well, that's pretty nice. This guy's very funny.
Maybe you can tell why they presented him with a nut. You know,
Well,
that might lead to some evidence there. For
he's out there a little bit, but it's good to see those guys on there. The 4 astronauts from the last mission on there.
Yeah, really
that was just wonderful to see those guys, and I'm sure they're a lot of people want to see and talk to them around the country.
Very
as
true.
It should be, you know.
Very true.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about something closer to home, the Coca-Cola Space Science Center, which you are the executive director of.
I am.
All right, so we got astronomy nights. We have Ionosphere Theater. We've got all kind of laser shows.
Yeah.
Where do you start? Tell us about that.
First of all, let me just start by this. It's August, so I'd like to just say welcome back to all the students who are out there.
Oh, yeah.
And for new students to Columbus State University, welcome to CSU. And if you're signed up for an astronomy class, if you're looking for what building it's in the Coca-Cola Space Science Center. So that's a great place to have an astronomy class. You get to come downtown and have your astronomy class in one of the state-of-the-art astronomy and space science learning facilities anywhere in the nation. So that's one of the things we're very proud about here at Columbus State University.
Well,
we have that facility.
It's an amazing facility, and all the new students and new families that are coming into town, they have to go there. Everybody I'm talking to that's new coming in, so you have to visit there. You have to go down and see all those wonderful exhibits, talk to the staff down there. You can get an education on what's going on in space science there. You definitely can.
Thank you. We appreciate that. We try to have that facility at the cutting edge at all times. And the idea is that because the school is just starting back up, we're just kind of coming out of our summer schedule, which was very busy. We're getting ready to move into our fall schedule, which is also very busy. But August has traditionally been a bit slow for us in terms of those 2 seasons that we transition between. So right now we're in a phase where we're kind of doing some interior construction. We're actually building a storage closet. We're doing a lot of exciting things like that. However, that doesn't mean that things aren't going on down there. So there are still activities taking place. If you're looking for our next telescope night, at the Space Science Center.
Right.
All summer long, we've been out at Callaway Gardens. We've been doing a weekly program out at Callaway.
Weekly at Callaway's every night through the summer.
Every Monday
Absolutely
night. Yeah, every Monday night we're out at Callaway Gardens throughout the entire summer. We're coming back down to the Space Science Center for what we call a home game. We have our first home game on August the 27th. That program will begin at 8 p.m. You can come in for a free tour of the nighttime sky inside our planetarium, which is a virtual nighttime sky, so even if it's raining outside, you can still come on in and we'll show you where all the stars and constellations can be found this time of the year. And that will be with Dr. Rosa Williams. She'll be giving you a live star tour inside the Omnisphere Theater. Excellent. Then right after that, provided the sky is clear, we'll take our telescopes outside. We have some very, very nice telescopes. We'll be setting those up out there on the south lawn, and we'll give you a look at the nighttime sky from our facility in downtown Columbus. So that's coming up on August the 27th.
August the 27th, put that in your book. What else?
Well, we have some other things going on. On Friday nights and Saturday nights, we have laser shows that end up our schedule. Now, we have a lot of great shows on our schedule, and we can talk a little bit more about those, but I want to know about the laser shows, because if you have a planetarium, you pretty much have to run a Pink Floyd laser show. It's just in the contract. You got to do it. So if you want to see the Pink Floyd laser show, it's Laser Dark Side. That's running on Friday night at 8 p.m. If U2 is a little bit more your speed, you like U2 a little bit better.
With the U2, yeah.
We have a U2 laser show as well. Come in and hear that great U2 music and see all those cool laser effects on that 50-foot dome in the planetarium. That's Saturday night at 8 p.m. throughout the month of August.
Nice.
So you can see those Friday and Saturday night. Now, in addition to that, we also have a show. One of our main features running in the Omnisphere is called Secrets of the Sun. It talks all about solar activity. And the reason that's kind of important right now, the sun goes through an 11-year cycle where it gets quiet for a while, then it ramps back up and has a lot of activity. What kind of activity? Well, things like sunspots and solar flares, big eruptions and explosions on the surface of the sun that can actually send charged particles at the Earth, which can trigger northern lights and radio disturbances and a lot of that kind of activity. The sun's heating up right now. So we're moving back into a phase where we're nearing solar maximum, the maximum amount of activity. If that kind of thing interests you, you want to learn more about that, we have a great show running this month in the Omnisphere Theater. It's called Secrets of the Sun. You can come down and see Secrets of the Sun, and you'll be practically a sun expert by the time that you leave that show.
All right.
I personally guarantee that for you, Mike Baltimore.
I will go down. I mean, if the sun is heating up, I want to be there to see what's going on. I really do.
Let me be careful about the way I say that. The temperature's not actually changing, all right? So we're not talking about temperature fluctuations in the sun. It's just that the activity is increasing. So just want to make sure we're scientifically clear out there.
You know, Sean, I'm glad you're here to correct me on some of this. I'm throwing it out there really fast, and I'm not sure I got it correctly. It's going very fast. You know, I think we're at the end of another show. Sean, this has been great. This is our first show of Season 3. Episode 1, Season 3, as they say.
Fantastic.
And I want to thank you for being here, bringing all this great information into our viewers. You can watch us at coehp.tv. on the web 24/7. You can go to our on-demand site. We're on YouTube, we're on iTunes, we're on Channel 39 here at the university, and we invite you to continue to watch our show. We'll be here each week with Sean Cruzen, the Executive Director of the Coca-Cola Space Science Center. I'm Michael Baltimore, your host for the show, and we really appreciate you watching. Tune in again to This Week in Space Science. We'll see you next time. Sean?
Thank you. Appreciate it.